Welcome back to the Brahmin Word, and we are walking through the creation account still today, but we are continuing to walk through the creation of humanity. And last time we looked at how we are created in the image of God, but how we are also given this command by God to have dominion over the rest of creation. And then finally, how the Trinity shows up in Genesis chapter 1. But today we're going to go back to that word dominion. And we're going to basically kind of talk about the purpose and the mission that God sets for us as humanity when He created us. And so we're going to take a look at that and more today. So turn with me to Genesis chapter 1. We're going to be looking at verses 28 through 31. So let's dive right into verse 28. And God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." All right, so first off, I think we're supposed to go back to day 5 and verse 22 specifically. And God blessed them, them being the birds and the sea living creatures, saying, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters and the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth." So if you go now to verse 28 with humanity, and God blessed them, being humanity, and God said to them, "Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth." First thing you have to see is really just the similarities there. You got the breaking pattern with the fact that God is blessing humanity, but you also have very similar language when it comes to the command that God gives to humanity: be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. But then it changes. And it changes in a big way with two words: subdue and dominion. And as we talked about last time with the word dominion, in our day and age, we see those two words in a very, let's just be frank about it, a very negative connotation. But in this time, and at the time of this writing, that was not supposed to be the case at all. And looking at the context of the use of these words, there would be no negative connotation, anyways, because, well, one, there's no sin yet, but we're also talking about the creation of the creation account itself, where everything is being told as good, which we'll talk about that in a second at the very end. But we're also talking about a blessing that God is giving through this command that God is giving to humankind. So context-wise, there is no negative connotation. And so what do these words actually mean? Well, as we talked about with dominion, I think it's more kind of like stewardship. And I think subdue is also that way as well. Now, the it is really interesting here. I think the subdue it, what is that it? I think that it is probably referencing back to earth. Be fruitful, multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it. Now, could it mean the earth and all of creation as a whole in general? It absolutely could. However, though, it's followed up with, "and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." So that long list of things is there. Whereas if the it in verse 28 was referring to the whole of creation, that should have carried over to dominion. It should have read, "and have dominion over it." But instead of this long list. So for me, I think it's interesting that the subdue it is probably referencing just the earth or the dry land. Now, does that mean anything when it comes to the difference of it? No, I don't think so at all. I think instead, the subdue the earth is the idea that we are to be stewards of the earth, just like we are to be stewards of the birds and the fish and the animals as well. Now, looking at the original Hebrew, both of these words can, on the surface, possibly have a very negative connotation. The Hebrew word for subdue specifically, can mean disregard or tread down. But in this context, I think it's probably more like a conquer or a bring into subjection or subjugate. Now, again, we today might see those words as, but that's not how it was supposed to be taken at the writing of Genesis chapter 1, and specifically in the context of Genesis chapter 1 as well. So instead, we're supposed to read it as a closer to the stewardship where we are given a level of authority, yes, but to take care of the creation that God has made. So I think that's what's going on with those two words. And then one last thing, too, with this verse is this idea of fill the earth. I think for me, what that brings up and brings to the table is the fact that God created sexual relations or to be a good thing. To be a necessary thing. The fill the earth is not to go, hey, I'm going to go travel over here, you travel over there, and we're going to fill the earth that way. No, the fill the earth is actually a call to reproduce. Just like he calls for the animals to reproduce, he is calling for humanity to reproduce. Now, yes, those things get twisted. Sexual relations get twisted after the fall in Genesis chapter 3. But it's not like sexual relations were created post Genesis 3. They were created actually on the sixth day of creation when it comes to the creation of humanity, I mean. So that I think is really interesting, and I just want to make sure that we don't disregard that fact when we look at the creation account. But let's head to verse 29, though. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. All right, we'll stop there. So, a lot of people have brought up why would God create plants on day 3? Now, we already talked about the interesting part about that when the sun was created on day 4. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up here is the fact that he created the plants on day 3, knowing that they were going to be the source of food for the birds, the fish, the animals, and for humanity as well later on days 5 and 6. And so he wanted to go ahead and create plants on day 3. That's why I also think they were probably more of a older growth than of like a baby plant on day 3 as well. So then they could be ready to yield seed and to have seed ready to go to make more plants, since they would have to feed the animals and everything on days 5 and 6, including humanity as well. And then we have again this phrase, and it was so, to get back to the pattern of the creation account. But now we have verse 31. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning the 6th day. Now, this is really interesting because you have everything else going to pattern here. You have God seeing everything that he's made on that day, and behold, it was good, and there was evening, and there was morning, and then whatever day that is. However, you might have noticed that I missed a word in that, and that is the word very. There is a difference here. And there is also another difference as well, and hopefully you caught it. In verse 31, it says, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. So the everything that he had made, does that mean everything on day 6? Or does that mean everything in the creation account? This is a great question, and scholars have really kind of wrestled with this question of, is this meaning everything that he made on that day, or the whole creation account? Or the whole creation account, sorry. For me, I think it makes a lot more sense stylistically if we're talking about the whole creation count as a whole. Now, again, that breaks the pattern because we have the Lord saying that something is good on that day, whereas here we're just saying the whole thing is great or the whole thing is very good. Instead of just the thing on day 6. But we have seen that there's been some breaks of pattern before. And so for me, as we are about to wrap up the creation account with day 7, as we look at that starting next week, for me, I think this is a great stylistic move and kind of a, ooh, that's interesting, that it's saying everything that he had made and not just everything that he made on day 6. But he describes it as very good. Now, some people have thought that, okay, he's talking about humanity only as being very good, so therefore we're the best thing that he has ever created. Now, don't get me wrong, he created us in a very unique way because we are created in the image of God. However, knowing that verse 31 is talking about everything that he has made in general, and therefore it was very good, I think it's just trying to show that all of creation was created very good. I don't think it means that like humanity was the very good part and everything else is pretty good or good. Yes, there is a special, unique creation of humanity, which then zooms in chapter 2, which we'll get to next week. But for me, I just think it's just God saying that everything that he has created is very, very good, which then sets up for the sadness and the tragedy of the fall in Genesis chapter 3, knowing that everything that he has created is very good. The fact that sadly it is then twisted in Genesis chapter 3, that is so sad to see. All right, so with that being said, we are done with the creation account when it comes to 1 through 6. But there is a 7th day, so we will take a look at the 7th day of creation starting next week, and then we will jump into the more focused look at the creation of man next week after day 7. So that is where we are going with the creation account. But thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today as we took a little bit more of a look at the fact that God gave us a purpose and a mission, which is to be a steward of his creation, but also to reproduce and to fulfill and to fill the earth as well. And we'll get more and more into that aspect next week with chapter 2. But thanks for spending a little bit of time with me today. I will see you next week. Thanks.